chokers. We have the chokers with the fringes, and we have the choker without fringes. It have its own shape. You can create your own shape, and what I'll do is show you the process, and then from that process you can take that and you can give it whatever look that you like, but I'm just going to show you how I do it, and that way you will be able to create these beautiful chokers. So I'll show you how to make the pattern. Now I'm going to show you the process that I use to make the pattern for these chokers. And just to kind of give you an idea, for these chokers right here, what I'm going to do is my secondary will be made from the vegetan leather. You can buy these in strips, or you can buy the hide and cut your own strips. And now another thing you can also do, you can also go to a resale shop and buy old leather belts, and you can use the belts as the secondary. Now we will use another piece of leather. For an example, this is what we're going to use. You'll use another piece of leather as your primary. So this will be your primary, and this will be your secondary, which will go on the back. So what I'll do, I'll show you the process that I go through to make my pattern. Okay, basically first thing you want to do is that you want to get the neck size. So for example, let's say that a person's neck size is a size 16. Well, what I normally do is that I normally add 2.5 inches to the neck size. So if the person's neck is a 16, well then I will cut my pattern out as an 18.5. So basically what I will do, I'm going to use, this is 1 inch wide, so I'm going to cut it out (18.5) by 1 inch. That's going to be my secondary pattern. Well, length and width, but I'm going to show you how to make the pattern. So what I will do, I will take my ruler, and I will trace out a line that is 18.5. So I have my 18.5, and let's say that my fringes, I want my fringes to be long, so you can always cut them down. You can't add to them, you can always cut them down. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with my fringes as long as possible, and then I will cut them back if I want to. So what I'll do, I will just use every bit of my pattern here. Okay, now this is my pattern, and I'm gonna cut it out, and then I'll show you our next step. this is the beginning of my pattern. So now what I will do, I will fold it so I can get the center of the pattern. Okay, now that I have the center, I'm going to bring it down like a triangle. Now what I will do, I will cut and believe it or not, this is our pattern. So what I will do now, I will cut the leather, and then we will make the choker. Okay, now that we have the pattern cut out, which is for our choker, the other thing I want to show you is this choker here. We did not actually come up with this pattern here. If I remember right, we got it from a McCall's pattern. Now, this one here that we did, which is this pattern right here. And I'm not sure if they did there out of fabric or what, but I think it was designed for fabric, but we took it and did it out of leather and embellished it. And so you can kind of give it your own look. But what I'm going to show you is how to put this particular choker together. So we have our pattern. Now what we're going to do, we're going to trace it out onto the leather, and we're going to cut our strap for the choker. And we have the measurement as 18 inches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the strap down to a 1 inch by 18.5 inches. Okay, this is the strap we're going to use, which will be our secondary. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the tips to give it a finished look. You don't have to do that, but I'm going to do it just to give it a finished look, which will give it a shape. It'll give it this shape here and this shape here, so when it crosses over, it have a finished look to it. But like I say, you don't have to do that. It could be to where when it crosses over. Okay, I'm going to cut the tip of the strap. I'm going to use 2 different types of tip cutters. On this end, I'll cut this one. Then on the other end, I'll give it a different shape. Now that we have this cut, we're going to dye the secondary. Okay, now that we have the strap cut and the tips cut, we're going to dye it. And one thing I always say about this dye, you always want to wear gloves, because when you get this dye on your hand, it is not going to come off. And for me, I like using a cloth that have texture. It kind of gives that wood type of finish. And like I say, there's no wrong way or no right way of dyeing. I just don't like putting it on real heavy, because like I say, I like for mine to look like it's wood. So some people like it heavy and some don't. So there's no wrong way or no right way. It's your way. Okay? Now that we have this dyed, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this leather finisher on it just to seal it. It's not really going to give it a shine or anything like that. It's just to seal the dye. Now what I'm also going to do, I am going to go ahead and edge coat, because once I glue this secondary to the primary, it'll be kind of difficult to edge coat it. So I'm going to do that now, so I won't have to worry about trying to edge coat while it's glued to the primary and get the edge coat all over the primary. You don't have to do this, but it will give your choker such a finished, more of a finished look than if you do not edge coat it. Okay, now that we have this edge coated, what I'm going to do now is trace out the pattern onto the primary, glue the secondary to the primary, and cut it out. Okay, now we're going to trace out the pattern . I think I'll use this area right here. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just cut this out so I'm not trying to work with the whole piece of leather. So I'll just take this. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll go ahead, cut this out. What I will do now is that I will glue the secondary to the primary. Just want to make sure it's centered. So I'll just make sure I trace this out so I'll know where I need to put it back and where to glue. I'm just going to use the Leathercraft water-based glue. Now the reason why I wanted to put the edge coat on before I glue these two together is because if I were to try to edge coat this here and around here, I would have gotten it all over the back of the primary. But I am going to edge coat here because I need to just give this a finished look. So what I'll do, I'll edge coat across the top. But first of all, what I'm going to do is cut I'm going to just cut here, across here, and just kind of line these two lines here up. So this is actually the choker before we do anything to it. I'm going to go ahead and edge coat this so I don't forget to do that. Now the reason why I wanted to put the edge coat on before I glue these two together is because if I were to try to edge coat this here and around here, I would have gotten it all over the back of the primary. But I am going to edge coat here because I need to just give this a finished look. So what I'll do, I'll edge coat across the top. But first of all, what I'm going to do is cut I'm going to just cut here. Across here. And just kind of line these two lines here up. Okay, now that I have this edge coat, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to sew around the secondary. I normally would sew from the top side, but because I'm not able to see this part here of where to sew, I'm going to sew it from the back side. And I'll do that before I cut all the fringes. It'll just be easier to work with. Okay, now that we have it glued and edge coated, now we're going to stitch it. But the one thing we're going to do, we're going to turn it over on the back side and stitch it, because if we stitch it from the top side, we can't see where we need to stitch around this edge here. So that's why we're turning it over, so we have a visual to go by while we're stitching. I'm going to do a couple of about 6 stitches, and then I'll turn it over to make sure that I have a good looking stitch on the top side. So I'll turn it over. It's a good looking stitch. Now I will go ahead and continue my stitch. Just check it one more time. Okay. Now that we have this stitched, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the fringes, and then we put the snaps on and then embellish it. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to cut the fringes. So what I normally do is that I turn it over on the back side. I will find the center. Let's do this. I'll get my center. Trace me a line. And then I'll cut it in at least 4 sections. And the reason why I do this is because I've learned that if I just start cutting, well, it end up not being even. So if I cut it in sections, it comes out a lot better as far as being even. You can do it 2 ways. You can use a rotary cutter and just start deciding how wide you want your fringes to be. You want it to be a 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch, a 1/2 of an inch. It all depends on you. What I'm going to do, so you can use a rotary cutter or you can also use the scissors to do it. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the rotary cutter, and because I'm using the rotary cutter, what I don't want to do, I do not want to cut too close to this secondary, because the rotary blade is round. Even though you think you're only cutting up to right here, you're actually cutting into your secondary. So what I will do, I will just draw me a stopping point, and then from that point I can use the scissors to cut all the way up. So this will be my stopping point. Okay, now that I have my 4 sections, what I will do, I will do it like this. And I'm going to cut mine 1/4 of an inch. So this is what they're gonna turn out to be. Yep. They're going to be 1/4 of an inch wide. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of these up, and then I will show you what I will do next, as far as whether I'm going to leave them straight or whether I wet them and twist them. And then after that, we'll put the snaps on, and we will put the embellishment on. That if you choose to embellish it. So I'm going to just cut. Okay, this is our choker. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to wet it. And we're going to twist the fringes. Now you don't have to, you can leave them long. I mean, you can just leave them straight like this. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to twist them and to where they will stay like that. So we will wet these. Now all I did was take these over to the faucet and I wet them. Let me just kind of cut this. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, basically what I did, I just took them over, just took this over to the faucet, wetted the fringes, and then I'm going to twist them. And when they dry, they will stay twisted. The thing about leather is that when it's wet, however it dries, that's what it will stay. So it'll stay a certain shape. So I twist and I pull. Now you don't have to do this, but I like twisting my fringes. Another thing is that when you make a choker, you don't have to sew it. If you do not sew it, you want to use contact cement glue instead of the Leathercraft glue, which is water-based. I'm just showing you how I make my chokers. You can do yours different. Have your own style, your own look. But I just want to show you the process. Okay, this is what it looks like. And now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to put the snaps on and then do embellishment. Okay, we're going to do 2 snaps, and I'm going to put them 5/8 of an inch apart from each other. So I'll put one here. Put one here. And then on the other end, I'm going to put 2 snaps. And they will be 5/8 of an inch apart from each other. So I will put the part that I call the cap on this end. Put the second one on. On the other end, I will put what I call the head. Now this will snap together like this. So the next thing we're going to do, if you want to, I'm just going to show you how you can embellish it if you wanted it embellished. So if you wanted to embellish it, you can embellish it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a couple of studs on. I'm just going to put a couple of studs on, and I'm just going to random punch the holes, just so you can kind of see what this will look like. You can come up with your own design, your own look, but I'm not using a pattern. And the thing about doing something like this, whatever you want to do, however you want it to look like, you can do that. So now what I will do, these are dome-shaped rivet back rivets. Well, let me change that. They're dome-shaped rivets. So these are the rivets that I just put in the back, and these are the dome-shaped caps that goes over the font. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set these. I have a setter here. I have a setter. So what I'm going to do is just set these. Now this is complete. So let me put it on the stand so you can see what it looks like if it was around someone's neck. Now this is the one that we started off showing you from the very beginning of what we was going to make. And we take this off. This is the one that we just made. That is it. And like I say, you can cut your fringes long, and if you wanted to shorten them, you can shorten your fringes. But it's always best to cut them long because you can always shorten them. You just cannot extend them. So this is what it looks like complete. This is the back. And one of the things you want to keep in mind is when you're making one of these is that you don't want your leather to be too stiff, have too much body to it. You want to be able to, when you can ball it up in your hands and it's not stiff. So I hope that this will help you in making some different products. I know everybody's not going to make bags, but I want to be able to show you all other things that you can make. And like I say, you can make this and you don't have to sew it. And I will show you some other products that you can make that are quick to make, easy to make. And if you have not subscribed, please go ahead and go to our channel and subscribe and pass this on to someone else. And thank you for watching, and I hope that this was some help to you.